You start a new budget on the first of the month. You feel in control. But by week 3, the spreadsheet is abandoned and you're back to guessing how much is in your checking account. Most people repeat this cycle for years because they don't understand the invisible pressure that breaks a financial system. Traditional financial advice says you fail because you lack discipline. They want you to believe that if you just tried harder or cared more, you'd finally track every dollar. This ignores the reality of how your brain actually handles repetitive, low-reward tasks, like logging a $4 coffee every single morning. Look at the 30-day budget lifecycle. On day 1, you have the novelty of a new goal. Novelty provides a temporary surge of mental energy that makes difficult tasks feel easy. But novelty is a finite resource. By day 17, that initial surge has evaporated, leaving you to rely on raw willpower to manage the data entry. Day 17 is where administrative fatigue sets in. This is the moment where the pile of unlogged receipts starts to feel like a second job. When the friction of maintaining the budget exceeds the remaining energy you have after a 9-hour workday, the system collapses. Budgeting failure is a system mismatch. You are attempting to run a high-maintenance process on a brain that only has a limited amount of daily bandwidth. If the system requires more energy than you have left at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday, it is mathematically destined to fail. To find a system that actually lasts, you have to understand the relationship between effort and accuracy. In personal finance, you are constantly trading one for the other. Administrative friction is the cost of entry. If you choose a method that requires you to categorize every single transaction by hand, you are choosing high friction. It is the literal minutes and seconds you spend looking at your banking app every week. Granular control is the benefit. High control means you can see exactly where $15 went. It allows you to spot tiny leaks in your spending and gives the budget the power to physically stop you from overspending in specific categories. We can map every popular budgeting method onto this behavioral budget matrix. When you increase the control and detail of a budget, the administrative friction naturally rises alongside it. You cannot have a perfectly detailed budget that also requires zero work. A functional budget is found by identifying the exact point on this matrix where the level of control is high enough to meet your goals, but the friction is low enough that you won't quit when you're tired. Group 1 consists of the granular trackers. These are the heavy hitters: zero-based budgeting and the envelope system. These sit in the extreme top right of our matrix because they demand total engagement. Using a zero-based budget means assigning every single dollar a job before the month starts. If you earn $4,000, you must account for all $4,000. The envelope system takes this further by using physical cash. When the grocery envelope is empty, you stop buying food. The outcome is absolute mathematical certainty. There is no guessing if you can afford a new pair of shoes. The system provides a hard barrier. For someone leaking money through hundreds of tiny, mindless purchases, this level of control is the only way to see the full picture. However, the cost is high. These systems are fragile. If you have a plumbing emergency or a flat tire, a zero-based budget requires you to sit down and reallocate your entire month to find the money. This creates constant administrative friction that most people cannot sustain beyond the first 60 days. While Group 1 offers the highest potential for optimization, it carries the highest risk of total abandonment. It is a high-performance tool that requires a high-performance operator. Group 2 moves toward the center, the proportional frameworks. This is where you find the 50-30-20 rule and the 60-40 budget. These methods prioritize simplicity over precision. Instead of tracking 20 different categories, you split your income into 3 big buckets: 50% for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for savings. You don't care if a want was spent on a movie ticket or a new shirt, as long as the total stays under that 30% cap. This creates a low-stress mental model. Because you aren't fighting with spreadsheets every night, you are much more likely to keep doing it. It keeps your general cost of living in check without making you feel like an accountant. The trade-off is a lack of tactical feedback. These macro categories are often too broad to stop bad habits. If you consistently overspend on takeout but label it as a need or a want without checking the details, the system won't alert you to the problem until the bucket is already empty. Proportional frameworks are designed for sustainability. They drastically reduce the urge to quit, but they don't provide the data you need if you are trying to aggressively overhaul your financial life. Group 3 sits in the bottom left, automated and behavioral systems. This includes reverse budgeting, also known as paying yourself first, and the anti-budget. These methods attempt to remove the human element entirely. The work happens up front. You set up automatic transfers so that the moment your paycheck hits, your savings and investments are moved to separate accounts. Whatever is left in your checking account is yours to spend. You ignore daily tracking completely. This system guarantees you build wealth over time because the budgeting happens before you ever get a chance to spend the money. It removes the daily guilt and the need for willpower. As long as the transfer's clear, you are winning. But automation creates a massive blind spot. Because you aren't looking at your transactions, you lose visibility into lifestyle creep. You might be saving $500 a month, but you could be wasting another $500 on subscriptions and recurring fees you forgot existed 3 years ago. Automated systems are the most consistent because they require the least effort. However, they force you to accept that you will likely never have a perfectly optimized spending plan. Now you have to choose. To pick correctly, you have to be honest about your current situation and how much paperwork you are actually willing to do. Use the selector to find your match. The first question is about your level of financial risk. Are you currently fighting high-interest debt, like credit cards or personal loans? If you are in high-interest debt, your interest rates are likely growing faster than a passive system can handle. You need Group 1. The administrative friction of a zero-based budget is a tactical necessity here. You need maximum control to find every spare dollar to kill that debt before it compounds. If you aren't in a debt crisis, the choice comes down to your personality. Ask yourself, will you realistically sit down and track your receipts or log into a banking app every single week? Be honest. If you are willing to do some work but don't want the stress of a zero-based system, go with Group 2. This gives you situational awareness. It keeps you informed about your spending habits without the high risk of burning out and quitting after 2 weeks. If you know you will never track a receipt, do not attempt the other methods. You will only fail and feel guilty. Choose Group 3. By automating your savings up front, you bypass your own lack of interest in the details. You sacrifice optimization for the certainty of long-term consistency. The best budget isn't the one that looks best on a spreadsheet. It's the one that balances your current financial risk against the amount of effort you can actually sustain for the next decade. Select the system that matches the tired version of yourself, not the motivated version that started this video. Long-term wealth is built by small, sustainable efforts that never stop. Once you pick a method, commit to it for 60 days. Do not try to switch systems or tweak the rules the first time things get difficult. Give the system time to become a habit. At the end of those 60 days, look at your progress. If you followed the system consistently, it's a winner. If you skipped weeks or felt overwhelmed, move one step to the left on the matrix to a lower friction model. An imperfect budget you actually follow for 5 years will always build more wealth than a flawless, high-control plan you quit after 3 weeks. Stop chasing perfection and start chasing consistency. Subscribe to master the math of your life and comment below which of these 3 groups fits your life right now.